The National Party are set to have 4 seats already. There's some discussions going on there about who's going to lead the National Party. Obviously, Mia Davies is doing that now, but when asked, Vince Catania on radio said, look, he wouldn't rule out going for leadership and contesting that. He said, I'm not going to say yes, I'm not going to say no. So it's gotten to the point where those logistics and practical things are actually being talked about and worked out for a new opposition for the state, which is unheard of. You know, everyone I spoke to last night from both sides of politics and both state and federally were just gobsmacked at the swings and how large they were, and in seats that have been blue for so long, and no one could imagine having ever voted Labor. And here we are the next morning just kind of looking at how much things have changed. It's pretty incredible.
It is, and there was certainly a massive sense of disbelief at just how big the losses were for the Liberals last night, Sarah. Zac Kirkup, the leader, he's lost his seat. He's now quit. Is it now a matter of a big rebuilding process for the West Australian Liberals?
Yeah, I think so. My colleague Joe Spagnolo this morning was writing that, look, don't blame Zac Kirkup for this loss. Essentially, it's not completely, really his fault. This is a Liberal Party thing that they really need to restructure it. They need to look at how to, go from the start and rebuild. Federal MP Ben Morton was saying this is the phoenix moment for the state Liberal Party to have, gone down in a ball of flames, but now to rise from the ashes. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond to this. Potentially it's the opportunity they need to rebuild and to come out potentially stronger, newer, fresher, responding to the weaknesses before, because this must have been the most rude wake-up call for any party to see.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the sense, Sarah? Was this a case that this was an election built on COVID? We know, of course, Mark McGowan's border policy was particularly popular in that state. Was he the popular premier, or was it his policies, or a bit of both? What's the sense?
Look, I'd say it's a bit of both, but particularly from the federal level, Scott Morrison this morning was quick to focus entirely on, look, this is Mark McGowan and Mark McGowan's leadership and Mark McGowan, not, a Labor Party win, because of course the question is being asked, well, these are people who have voted for the Liberal Party their whole lives, and state elections are now voting Labor. Are you concerned that this could happen at a federal level? And the way the Prime Minister dealt with that is by going, well, this is a win for Mark McGowan, and really putting that to the, almost the leadership he's got in this real personality campaign he's had. He has TikTok now. This guy's gone everywhere. He's crashing weddings as if he was a rock star. It's something quite different to just those typical, who's got the best policies sort of elections. At this point, the popularity of Mark McGowan, I think, had a huge role to play in the win that we've seen.
And you mentioned Scott Morrison. Are there any federal implications for Scott Morrison, particularly ahead of the next election?
Well, look, Liberal and Scott Morrison and his deputy PM and Liberal MPs and senators are quick to say, no. Australian voters know the difference between state and federal politics and elections. This doesn't mean anything at all. Contrastingly, Albanese was saying this morning that this is a big win for Labor, and it's very encouraging to see people who voted Liberal their whole lives to now vote Labor. So I guess it depends who you talk to. I do agree that there is a difference between state and federal politics. I think people do often vote differently for those two things. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if someone's voted Labor in the WA election that, now they're going to vote Labor for sure in the federal election. But I do think it's showing that, a lot of the Labor policies and so on are really strong. The only thing I think that is a little bit complicated is that McGowan hasn't really appeared publicly with Albanese. When Albanese came over to Perth a couple of weeks ago, it was quite a big shock to people to not see Albanese on the campaign trail with McGowan. And a lot of people were asking Kirkup as well if McGowan wanted to be seen with Albanese or not. So there is a bit of speculation that Mark McGowan has been distancing himself from federal Labor because, Albanese isn't nearly as popular as McGowan is. So that sort of separation might indicate that there's not going to be that flow-on effect to the federal election. But time will tell when we eventually get there.